Hi, someone had once said that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And that's so true. When we started off our Facebook advertising, we set up a set of benchmarks and metrics to measure ourselves to look at what is the minimum cost per lead and the maximum cost per lead that we wanted. In today's lesson, we're going to take a look at various metrics that you have to constantly keep measuring to ensure that you're on the right road to success. Because as you start your Facebook advertising, it's not good enough to have just one Excel sheet that you had created right at the beginning of your campaign with the maximum cost per lead. You've got to look at that on a daily basis. Yes, I mean daily, not weekly, not every couple of days, but every day. So we're going to look at 2 or 3 places from where you're going to collect your data and then map it on an Excel sheet. I have found that Excel is your best friend when it comes to looking at your daily data to see how your campaign is progressing. And you don't need to do major stuff on the Excel sheet, just some simple basic stuff will give you a very holistic picture about how your campaign is progressing. So let's go to Facebook, and today I'm going to show you live data. And we're not going to look at a test account, we're going to look at my account, my ad manager. We're going to pick up data from there, and I'm going to show you and walk you through what I do and how I manage all the metrics which are important for my business. The quick background is that I use webinars to drive traffic. So from Facebook, traffic comes to my webinar, and from my webinar, they go and buy my courses. You could replace webinars with any intermediate that you may have. For example, you may be selling stuff from your website, you may have an e-commerce store. So you just have to replace webinars with your medium. But having said that, let's take a look at some of the metrics which are very, very important. Now, the metrics that we will discuss in today's class will come from the Ads Manager and from your page as well as from Google Analytics. Now, let's go to the Ads Manager first. And I've opened it up here. I have a campaign which is currently ongoing. And, every day I come and take a look at how this campaign is performing. Now, this campaign is basically to get people to sign up for the webinar. So this is a conversion-based ad campaign. And by now you're pretty familiar with how a conversion-based ad campaign is set up. And therefore, what I'm really interested in is looking at how much I have spent, what is the cost per registration, and how many people have completed the registration. So this is the data that Facebook gives you by default. And now that you've got your basic 90,000 overview of the basic data, every morning I come and take a look at just this metric, because the number of registrations is not as important as the cost at which you're getting them. If you remember right at the beginning, I had told Facebook that I was comfortable with a cost per registration of 50 rupees. So anything lower than that is fine. And over the last couple of weeks, I have seen that my cost per registration fluctuates between 18 to 25 rupees per registration. During weekends, I have seen that it is far lower because I guess there are more people at home and they register for the webinar and they have more time. But it fluctuates between 18 to 25 rupees. So right now, if I look at my data at this point of time, at this time of recording, 22 rupees per registration is a very safe number. Okay, so if you want to drill down, and if, for example, if I wanted to drill down on this data, I would go here and, which is columns and the performance. I'm looking at performance or default data. But now let's start looking at some of the other kind of data that it can throw up and see if you would like to make some sense out of it. Let's look at delivery. So this is at a campaign level. I'm going to drill it down to an ad set level because I find that I get more information and insights at an ad set level rather than at a campaign level. In this campaign, I have 5 ad sets where I've created ad sets around the kinds of professions that my audience may be in, and I'm trying to look at what is my cost. Let me just come back here. Let's go back to default. I'm trying to look at what is my cost per registration by the kind of occupation they have. So for today, I can see that people who have stated that their managers are giving me a cost per registration of 15 rupees at the low end, and at the high end, people who are in basic clerical administrative staff have a much higher cost per registration. Of course, data for one day is meaningless, and I should actually be looking at this over a 7-day, 8-day, or 10-day period. And if I wanted to do that, I would come here, click on, let's say, last 14 days. And now I can see data which is normalized to an extent. And what I'm seeing is that by and large, there is no significant difference. It's all in the 15, 16, 14 rupee per registration. So there's no significant difference if I split my audience by ad set along the lines of the kind of work they're doing. So IT managers register roughly at the same rate as, for example, people in business and finance. So going forward, I may remove these ad sets and have one consolidated ad set. So let's go back and look at today, look at data for today. I'm updating this now. And I'm going to go here and let me look at engagement. So engagement will tell you how many people are reacting to the post, how many are commenting on it, sharing it, clicking the links, liking the page, etc. Engagement is a nice to know data, certainly not need to know. And amongst all of this, the only one which is really important is performance and clicks. So I'm going to go forward there to performance and clicks. And I see that for today, I have 31 registrations. And I'm just going to go at the back here because this is really where the data becomes very important. I have 40 button clicks. So on my ad, I have a button called Learn More. 40 people have clicked that. Since the morning, I don't have any website purchase. My click-through ratio is 1.67%, which is decent. It's not great because anything between 0.5 to 2% is decent. Anything above 2% is pretty good. And I know what my cost per click is. But remember, right now, because I'm running a conversion campaign, I'm not focusing on cost per click. What really is important to me is the cost per registration. This is what I've got a hawk eye on. There are a couple of other things that you can look at. And, for example, performance and clicks. Now, if I was to go back and do performance and defaults, you can also cross-tabulate this data by breaking it down by age, by gender. So let's look at gender, for example. How are people clicking between men and women, and what is the cost? Let's go back here. This should be very interesting. And if I look here, I find that for people in sales today, I've got 7 signups from men and 1 from women. Pretty much similar in management. So what I can see instantly is, at least today, except for IT, where in IT it's been an equal sign up, in all the others, men are outperforming women when it comes to registering for the webinar. And that's quite interesting. And maybe in IT it's more balanced because a webinar is more of a tech phenomena. You're signing up for a webinar, you'll be watching a video broadcast in real time. So this may be something that more people in IT are accustomed to, and therefore the signups are more balanced. But that's a hypothesis. So you can break it up by age and gender. You could break it up by region also. So let's see now. In IT, where have I got my signups? And to make this data more meaningful, I'm going to go back to a 14-day range. And now let's look at where are my signups coming from in business and finance first. Oh, definitely Delhi is rocking. Delhi is at 68. Karnataka, which is basically Bangalore, 76. Chennai is 24. And then I can see for the other professions, where are my signups coming from? Obviously, they'll come in from the big metros, the Delhis, the Bangalores, and the Bombays of the country will account for 80%, if not more, of the registrations. But you can see the outliers, and you can see where else are you getting your registrations from. So that's interesting, nice to know information. And this is nice to know because if you have one state which is an outlier, then you can create an ad, create a creative specifically for that state. So you can break down your data quite a bit by looking at performance. I would normally keep breakdown to default, okay, and not really look at it because it really complicates matters quite a bit. And I would look at performance and clicks, and firstly look at the results that I've achieved. So how many people, for example, let's go back to today. How many people have so far completed a registration, and what has been the cost per registration? Basically, these are the two data points you need. How many people have performed the action you want or you have set up your ad campaign for, what the conversion event, and what is the cost at which that conversion is happening. Now that you have this data, I would urge you to create an Excel sheet like this. Now this once again is the Excel sheet for my business, and this is live data for the past couple of weeks. So the first thing that I do is, write down the dates and days, the ad spend that I have, the amount of money that I've spent on that particular day, how many people have signed up or registered, and this is data coming from Facebook, and this is basically this data. This is the number of people who have completed a registration. I also cross-tabulate it with the number of people that my webinar software is saying have completed a registration, and there is always a difference. Normally I find that there's a 10-15% difference either way between people who have registered and people who have who Facebook claims have registered. This column for me is far more accurate because I have, for example, on August 3rd, I have actually 139 email addresses of people who have registered. So why is Facebook saying it's 154? Because when a person clicks the link to register, whether they actually sign up or not, once they move from Facebook to my site to register, Facebook tracks it as one conversion event. Whereas here, in this case, the person signed up for the event. Okay, so that is basically how many people registered. But that's the numerator. The denominator is how many people came to the registration page. And for that, I have my good old friend Google Analytics. So what I do is I come to behavior, site content, all pages. Then I would change the date range to today because we're comparing it for today. And my registration page that I've set up is called registration 15. And I know, oops, this didn't change. I have to click apply. Yeah. And I know that today 16 people have seen my registration page. Or if I wanted to look at the August 3rd example, I would change this to August 3rd to August 3rd. So from August 3rd to August 3rd, click apply. And now I know that unique page views were 377. So I come back here and you can see that 377 were the number of people who came to the registration page. And out of 377 people, 154, according to Facebook, 154 signed up. So my conversion figure or my landing page conversion is 41%. So 41% is basically C4, which is 154, divided by E4, which is 377. How many people registered for the webinar divided by the number of people who came to the registration page. So the first major metric that I really look at is what is my landing page conversion. And as you can see, for me, it's been roughly about 40%, which is, the average for all the days that we are looking at. Now, 40% is decent. Normally, your landing page should convert at between 20 to 40%. Anything above 40%, 45, 50% is great. But normally it converts at 20 to 40%. So I've had days where it is converted at about 25%. And then I've had some days where it's converted slightly higher at about 46%. In fact, I had one day where it converted at 18%. So don't get worried if you find on a particular day you've had a very bad conversion, because on some days you'll have a great conversion and the two will sort of cancel each other out. So that's your landing page conversion, which is very important to monitor because that's the top end of the funnel. And if you can increase the number of people who are registering for your webinar, if you can increase that number, if you can increase your landing page conversion, the bottom end of the funnel automatically starts increasing because more and more people are going through the funnel and eventually more and more people will sign up for your product. Next, we look at, next what I look at is once people register, how many of them show up for the registration, for the event. And this I take from the data from my webinar software. Now, I'm not going to get into that because you may not be using webinars, or even if you do use webinars, you may use a different software, and that's not really relevant. What's relevant is to see the philosophy behind this Excel sheet and how I'm going from the top end of the funnel, which is basically my landing page conversion. Now I look at of the people who registered. Okay, here my denominator is 139. How many showed up for the event? 76. So my show up rate is 55%. 55% is basically people who registered for the webinar divided by the number of people, the people who showed up for the event divided by the number of people who registered for the event. And I have about 55%. This again for webinars is quite the norm. It's quite a standard to have between 40 to 60% of people landing up for a webinar. If you have a webinar registration, a webinar show up rate of more than 50%, you're doing very, very well. Next, we come to of the people who showed up for the event, how many click the button at the end of the webinar to go to my sales page. So as you can see, the numbers have started decreasing rapidly. And I can see that 20% of people who showed up for the event ultimately ended up going to the sales page. And if I look at an average, it's about 25% for this time period. And that's not too bad. Basically what it's saying is 1 in 4 people who show up for the webinar, and the webinar is 1 hour in duration, 1 in 4 click the button to go and see the sales page. Of course, going and seeing the sales page does not mean that they will buy. Next, we look at, so how many people have gone and seen the sales page? Now this data, the sales page data, I do not take as a fraction or a number here. I like cross-tabulating it and looking at an independent source. So I go back to Google Analytics, and this is my sales page number. So this is very, very accurate. Data from Google Analytics is unlikely to be wrong. So I always take my sales page number from here, and it's 29, and I've entered 29 here. So of the people who showed up for the event, 38%, according to Google, 38% went and saw the sales page. Now this number I know varies quite a bit from this number, but that's life. This number is basically how many people click the button to go and see the sales page according to the webinar software, and it's 20%, and according to Google it's 38%. And because the numbers vary so widely, I keep both of them intact because what I'm trying to look at is two sets of data and arrive at a happy medium. If I had to choose between one of them, I would always choose Google Analytics because that is very accurate data. So now that I've got that, so I know, for example, how many people have landed up on my sales page, which is really this column here. And as I mentioned, this data comes from Google Analytics. This is my sales page. Once I know that, on that particular date, I look at how many sales I had, and I immediately know a couple of things. One is, at what rate did my sales page convert? So, sales pages normally for non-webinar events will convert at 1 to 3%. And anything at, for a webinar will convert at higher than 5%. A good sales page for a webinar should convert at higher than 5%. So I know what my sales page conversion is. And importantly now that I know how many sales I have, I even know what is my cost per customer. This is critical to know. Just as you should monitor your cost per lead, you also need to know what is your cost for gaining a customer, because when you sell something to a person and that person becomes a customer, you know what your revenue for customer is, but at the same time you need to monitor what is your cost per customer. And I can see that my cost per customer is 712 rupees now. I've also seen that on an average my page is converting at about 6.41%, which is pretty decent. It's not out of the park, but it's pretty decent. And finally, I will look at the number of sales I have, what is my revenue per registrant, and what is my daily ROI. So currently my business is generating an ROI of 195%, which means that if I put in $1 in the business, I get $3.95 back. So 195% does not mean that if you put $1 in, you get $1.95 back. Okay, what it means is you're getting almost a 200% return on investment. So if you put $1 in, you're getting almost $3 back. So the business is pretty healthy. And come down here, and then I look at a couple of other things, which is, what is my revenue less all my spends, because the spend here, the ad spend here, on which I calculated the ROI, is just looking at ad spend as an expense, but I have other expenses also. So I look at all my expenses, I then look at my net profit, and basis that, then I come to the actual ROI for the business. So this is how you need to create an Excel sheet for your business when you start an ad campaign. Just don't look at daily cost per lead or revenue and not put it on paper, because as you do ad campaigns throughout the month or throughout a quarter, you need to have this data to be able to go back and refer to. So this is one set of metrics which is really important, and actually the most relevant for our class, which is on advertising. But having said that, the other metrics that you should look at is metrics for your page. Now, as I mentioned, your Facebook ads will always be linked to a page, and you need to look at what's happening to your page. So you just can't, keep advertising and not look at people who are connecting with you. So for example, if I look at the fact that I have 10 notifications, these are 10 likes, clicks, shares. I have, one message in my inbox, so I need to go and look at that. And let's look at what else do I have here. I haven't really been very active on this page except for linking it to my advertising. But what I will do now is go to Insights. Insights is where you have all the data about your page. And you can see that, as you scroll down, you first get an overview of all your insights. Okay, so I won't go to all of them, because really what's very important is the stuff that we just did for our advertising. But I just want to show you what all is there in terms of the data if you want to deep dive into each of this for your page. So you go to Insights, click it, you can look at an overview, and then it's time to really go deep and look at, for example, let's look at promotions. So there's nothing on promotions right now. I haven't created a promotion. Let me look at my followers. So this is how my page followers has been building up over the last 2 months. And if I look at my net followers coming in, this dark blue stuff is basically my paid data. So, my paid followers, in the sense they came in because I have advertising going on. And as your followers numbers increase, there will be some people who will start unfollowing you also, which is just a part of life. Okay, then you can take a look at likes, and you can see how your likes have gone up. So how I can look at how my likes have gone up over a period of time, net likes, unlikes, etc. Reach. Let's look at people. You may want to figure out who are the people who have liked your page, who are my fans. So I can see, this is the gender divide between my fan base, and this is the divide by age bracket. So clearly most of my fans are men in the age bracket of 25 to 34. And then you can look at which cities they are from, which cities, and in fact even which countries they are from. And this is then split by fans, by followers, by the kind of people that the page has reached, what the people are the people who are most engaged with my page, and if I have any messages, they're lying here. So I'd urge you once in a while, at least once in a couple of days, to come to your Facebook page and go through all the insights that are here for you to get a sense of what's happening to your page. What I do as a norm is every morning, I certainly look at my notifications and my inbox to look at what people are posting regarding my advertising, because every time an ad goes out, all the likes, clicks, shares, comments are all captured in the notifications area. So if I click here, you will see that regarding my ad, there are lots of comments. People are sharing my page. They like my ad. This is the ad that is currently being advertised. I have some comments here, and so on and so forth, right? So it's very important to keep coming here and looking at the notifications if you're running an ad campaign. So that's it. That basically wraps up the session on metrics. Metrics are very important. I will leave a template like this in the links below this lesson so that you can create a template and adapt it to your requirements. Note that without this Excel sheet, you're completely dead in the water. So you must have something like this and then improvise it as you go along. As you start advertising, you'll figure out some columns that you will need, some that you won't need. But ultimately, the key metrics that you have to measure is what is the cost of getting a lead? What is the cost of getting a customer? What is the revenue you're generating per customer? And then what is the return on investment or return on expense for your business?